Now to, in my opinion, and pretty much every coach and academic advisor would tell you, the most important thing is the GPA, ACT, SAT, in a nutshell, grades. So the way I like to explain it is, the better the grades, the wider the net you can cast. All right, so I do not know how many schools, colleges, 4-year schools, 2-year schools there are in a country, but there's a ton. And I can pretty much guarantee you, if you're a 4.0 guy and you have a 35 on your ACT, that's pretty much going to qualify you for any school in the country if you're pretty good at baseball, right? And let's be honest, there is a little bit of leniency if you're a pretty good athlete. Doesn't mean that you can roll into Harvard with a 3.0 GPA and a 25. However, there is some leniency. So if you are in that top 1-2% academically, that is going to qualify you, at least in the classroom, if you're going to be a baseball player, in the classroom, all right, for most of the schools in the country, if not all of them. All right. The lower the GPA goes, the lower the ACT and the SAT goes, it starts to shrink your net a little bit. All right, so you may cut that crop of schools in half if you're a 3.5, 3.3, 3.5 guy, maybe with a 23 ACT. All right, so as far as the amount of schools in the country that you get to kind of sort through, maybe that list shrinks by half. The lower you go, your list shrinks. All right, so the idea is that when you're trying to decide what schools you're truly interested in, that your list is as large as possible from the academic side, so then you can start looking at what you're also interested in as far as major, school size, classroom size, and then also starting to look at the baseball side. Following that, my recommendation would be to start thinking about what level you honestly think you can play at. All right, and I'm not telling you to say that, okay, I'm strictly a Division II type guy, so that's going to be my sole focus. But start really thinking about what is your floor and what is your ceiling if you had to pick today. I think self-awareness is a very, very big part of this process, and also having the courage and being brave enough to go ask people that you trust, whether that be your mom or dad, or asking your high school coach or your summer league coach, or maybe you have an uncle that played at the collegiate level for baseball, and asking them what they think. All right. Now, the younger you are, all right, the higher the ceiling should probably be. I would never cap out a kid at 7th grade and say, no, don't look at those SEC schools. You're not going to belong there. That's a waste of your time. All right. Part of it is probably what you're thinking is because you don't want to discourage a kid, but the other side of it is it's probably just not a smart thing to do. Genetics are a crazy thing. Right? I've seen 7th graders that I thought may be fringe baseball players at the college level that end up playing Division I baseball. Right? I've had guys that I've been around both at the high school level, and we've had guys here at Forest where as a freshman we thought maybe they were a fringe Division I small mid-major type guy, and they ended up in the Big Ten. Right? So a lot of that has to do with genetics and also your work ethic. So I would never pigeonhole a younger guy saying, okay, this is your level, right? But as players start to get a little bit more physically mature, you really start to understand what the body's going to look like and how the body's going to work around maybe sophomore, junior year. For some guys, maybe as a freshman, right? That's when you really want to start to identify, okay, am I a Division I guy? Am I a Division II guy? That way you can start to narrow your scope a little bit, so it's not an overwhelming process of saying, I need to go to these 15 Division I schools for their camps and all these Division IIs and these Division IIIs. You can narrow it a little bit and say, okay, I know I'm maybe a Division II guy, all right, for a 500 or maybe slightly above 500 program, and my major is going to be physical education, and I want to stay within 3 hours. So you can start to identify maybe those 5, 6, up to maybe 10 schools that you're going to start to target. Now on to what is probably the most overlooked part of the process, and that is understanding all the different levels, what they are, all the different associations and the benefits, the pros and cons at each level. So obviously everybody watching this video probably knows NCAA Division I baseball. You guys know what the ACC is, SEC, Big Ten, all those big time conferences, because that's what you see on TV. That's what you read in Sports Illustrated and see in the newspaper. Okay, so everyone is pretty much aware of that. The Division II level, all right, start to educate yourself on what that is. What are those conferences locally? What are those powerhouse conferences maybe down south? A lot of players probably don't understand that there are some very, very good Division II schools that would pop on a Division I campus, all right, to play a team in and probably kick their butt. All right. We have had players turn down multiple Division I scholarships to go play Division II baseball at a powerhouse, all right, because they're probably better. And it's not only in the record side because they're at a lower level, but it's probably a better team. All right, and that takes a lot of maturity to understand, because it is cool to come home or put on Twitter or Facebook that you're going to play Division I baseball, but truly understanding the pros and cons. All right, and Division III, understanding what that is. A lot of people think that is kind of the last resort, and well, that's where you go when you're not good enough to get any baseball money. That's not true either. All right, a lot of players will end up choosing Division III over Division II and sometimes Division I because sometimes it's a better situation. All right, maybe you're a big time arm, maybe you're a junior and you're 87 to 89, got a good feel for an off-speed pitch, and some Division I schools like you, and maybe they're going to offer you a roster spot and no money. All right, they're going to say, well, you come in, you're going to be maybe one of our guys out of the pen your freshman year, and we'll see what happens. There may be a Division III school that says, hey, your grades are pretty good, right? We can offer you maybe 25% off the tuition because of your grades, and we want you to come in and start right away as a freshman, and we like to bat a little bit too. We like to see what you can do, and maybe you can crack into the lineup your freshman year as well. And for some players, that's more attractive, right? That's truly what they want to do, is to play position and also pitch. Maybe they have to compromise and go play Division III, and a lot of people are happy with that decision. Right? And NAIA, understanding what that is, right? That is not associated with the NCAA. Right? There are some positives and there are some benefits to playing in an NAIA school. A lot of players don't know about it unless they have to know about it. And what I mean about that is there are some requirements of the NCAA that are not exactly enforced at the NAIA level. Some NAIA schools are able to get players into school, especially international players. There are some restrictions at the NCAA level as far as how many international players you can have on a roster. There is no limitation in NAIA. Right? And from the academic side, there's a little bit of leniency with some schools as well. And understanding junior college. A lot of players around this area and even parents think that junior college is just a 2-year commitment, and then you try to figure out what you're going to do after that. Do you have to go get a job? All right? That's not the way it works. Okay? And I am a junior college product. It worked beautifully for me. Coach Larry Mosley is a junior college product. It worked very well for him. All right, there's multiple different reasons that a player would go to a junior college, but essentially the way it works is that is your bridge to a 4-year school. All right, so it's not a 2-year education and then you're scrambling to try to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life. All right, a lot of junior college coaches are phenomenal at placing their players and making sure they're going on to very good Division I, 2, or 3 schools for their junior and senior year. Some of the benefits for junior colleges, what we'll get into in a minute, is that they have a lot of money. They have a lot of scholarship money available for baseball, and also tuition naturally is a little bit cheaper. All right. And some of the other benefits are from the baseball standpoint. If you are a player that's maybe a little bit underdeveloped, or you got injured your junior year and a lot of bigger schools fell off of you, and now you're thinking maybe you have to settle on a school that you don't necessarily want to go to, there is another option, that's junior college. So with junior college, you go as a freshman. You would take your standard classes, you would take your English 101s, your psychologies. There are guidance counselors available so they can make sure that you are getting the credits that would be transferable, all right, and that would work underneath your major, whatever you want to major in when you transfer to a 4-year school for your junior year, all right, and you go there. You're probably going to play pretty soon. There's only freshmen and sophomores. It's not like you're going to be stuck behind a senior. So you would go for your freshman year. There are some 4-year schools that will recruit freshmen, but most of them will recruit them as a sophomore. So let's assume you're there your freshman year, you have a pretty good year, you move on to your sophomore year, you play well, maybe your GPA now is a little bit higher than it was in high school, and physically you're better and you put up some good numbers. all of a sudden there can be some D1 schools knocking on the door, D2 schools, whatever it may be. But my guess is that if you go to junior college and do what you need to do, your offers, as far as the baseball standpoint, are going to be from higher level programs than you had in high school. There are benefits to a four-year school recruiting a junior college kid. It's a turnkey guy. All right, so they're getting a 19, 20-year-old with 2 years of college baseball experience, right? And they do not necessarily have to say, okay, well, this kid's coming in, he's 17, 18, he's a little bit green, we got to get some weight on him, right? We got to work on some of the finer points of the game he's not really prepared for. With a junior college recruit, you're probably getting a guy that's ready to go, right? And why would a college coach take a junior from a junior college if they're not going to input them in the roster if things work out, right? There's no other need to take a junior unless you're going to play them. So when you're transferring out, you're probably going to be playing 4 years pretty consistently. And then also it's only a 2-year commitment for a college coach to offer a baseball scholarship. And when you're really thinking about it, it's an investment. And a college coach wants a return on their investment. So if they're going to give a player a 25 or let's say 50% baseball scholarship to a freshman, they may not necessarily get a return that freshman year. All right, they may get that player 20 games played, maybe 10 starts, but they're really not going to get the production for that 50% maybe until their sophomore or junior or senior year. With a junior college player, they're going to get that return immediately if things work out and that player stays healthy. And also it's a quicker turnover for that scholarship money. So if they offer a freshman, that freshman has that scholarship for 4 years. If they offer a junior college kid, they only have it for 2 years, and it tends to roll over obviously quicker, and they're able to offer that money out right after that. Now you have to start thinking about culture. What type of culture are you looking for? Are you looking for a hard-nosed coach that's going to tell you the way it is and maybe not necessarily be your best friend all the time, but challenge you to get better? Do you want more of a player's coach, all right, that is going to maybe spend a little bit more time communicating the why and looking into maybe the psychology about the way you work and maybe trying to get the most out of you by motivating you a little bit more and making sure that he's spending time with you, explaining things a little bit more thoroughly, right? Everybody is different, right? There are programs that are a dictatorship and they win national championships. There are programs that have more of a player's coach that really spends a lot of time trying to connect with his players and understand them on a personal level, and they win national championships. But you have to figure out what fits for you. And the easiest way to do that is use your library of different coaches you played for or been around. Maybe your high school coach is a dictator and it works really well for you. All right, maybe that challenges you. All right, and maybe you don't love him all the time, but you know that challenges you. All right, and you want to find a college coach that kind of meets his personality. All right, maybe you have been around that type of coach and it didn't work well for you. All right, and you kind of feel yourself being more comfortable and being more motivated when you have more of a player's coach that really wants to get to know you on a personal level. When you're evaluating schools and you're trying to make a decision on what could potentially be a good fit, I would always look to the head coach, right? Head coaches obviously move on as well, especially at the lower levels. They're always trying to climb the ladder most of the time. Some of the head coaches at the lower levels are really happy where they're at. They have their kids in school there, they love the community, and they just want to stay there. But usually at the lower level, they're looking to move on. But even still, by the time you get there, that coach is probably going to be there, and that's going to be his culture. When you start thinking about the assistant coach, it's a pitching coach, recruiting coordinator, volunteer assistant. I would imagine most volunteer assistant coaches don't want to remain a volunteer assistant coach. Right? As much as they love it, right, they want a full-time position. So they're probably going to be moving on soon. So if you go and you fall in love with a camp director, or if you fall in love with the pitching coach, before you make a decision to go to that school, understand that there is a pretty good possibility that by the time you get there, that coach will no longer be there. All right, and that's okay. They have to do what's best for them and for their family. They may move on to a higher level or to another school, or they may end up being let go. So you have to be 100% comfortable with that head coach and understand that that is his culture, And if the pitching coach does move on, that is his culture, so he's probably going to go and find another pitching coach that fits that type of mentality.